Is this thing on? Welcome to Rebooted the Podcast. I'm your host, Alita Hernandez. Come join me weekly to hear about my journey from recovery to healing after having a stroke and other life challenges. So let's get talking. Computer. Hi, so I'm Alita Hernandez from Rebooted the Podcast here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And I'm honored to have a special guest all the way from Australia, correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Hello, how are you? Hello to everyone out there.
So you are Christina Foxwell, and you are the CEO of Ignite Purpose. And I got information from you, and it just sparked my interest. I don't know where we should begin. I guess we can talk about your book. We talk about you. Let's just do a little introduction to the world on who you are.
Wonderful. Well, I like saying I'm simply a human being standing in this world, helping others realize we can be human beings together. I think if that captures my heart. So a little bit about me. I was born in the beautiful Southern Africa continent, down the bottom. My family were religious ministers in the community, Pentecostal ministers actually, and I grew up with this great sense of faith. But I think also, I should say, one of the biggest things that I learned to do from a very young age was trade my worthiness for acceptance. And I think I'm not alone in the world. Ended up breaking every rule. They always say if you want to see the naughtiest kids in town, you better find the minister's kids because they're the worst.
It's the truth.
It's the truth. Do you know why? Because we're not able to be just a normal human being.
No.
And everyone judges us. So we got these be these perfect little Barbies and Kens, you know, who never make a mistake, who could never do any wrong, who are actually, and my dad used to say this, an extension of his ministry, not by choice, but by birth. It's almost like the royal family. Not that I'm a royal, but anyway, let's not go down. I ended up going through domestic violence, a whole lot of things in my life, which we can talk about maybe later in the interview, and started working really, really hard because I try to outrun my story, Alida. And I know that's also not an uncommon behavior for people that have had really challenging stories. We find a way to dull the pain through whatever addiction we find. It could be shopping, it could be working, it could be a combo, it could be drugs, it could be alcohol, it could be sex. I could just keep going, right?
Exactly.
We find something to make the pain go away. The challenge is the more we do those destructive things, the less we find joy in our life, the very thing that we're searching for. But I love that, you know, you can't numb pain and then expect to feel joy.
It's kind of a weird, like your mind is doing this weird trick on you, right? Because I go through that same thing. I've gone through similar things in my life. And unfortunately, I opted to drugs, you know, back in the day, and to numb myself. And I've been thinking about that, like my journey, you know, thank God I'm recovered. I'm clean. I don't have any problems with that. I've changed my life, thank God. And my mindset, of course, to live a better life. But it's really such a bad cycle that I see, that people who have addiction and they don't realize why they're addicted. There's a reason for it, right? There's a compensation. You're trying to compensate for something you're lacking, but meanwhile you get into something that is worse for you, not realizing, oh, I just don't feel the pain. It's still there. It's just suppressed.
It's numb.
Yeah,
totally. It's like you've closed the door on the greatest opportunity to be all you can be, because to walk through that door means you've got to embrace the cactus first.
Right.
And we don't want to do that, do we? We just want to kind of, because the pain is intense. And I think this is the key thing. As people go through a healing journey, you don't do it alone. See, that's the biggest challenge, our life. And by the way, this is not just every single person, no matter how normal you think you are, there is no normal, right? What is normal?
I don't know.
you know, we might look like the perfect couple, but in actual fact, we're doing things in our marriage that's numbing the discomfort we should be walking through. And I think if my journey has taught me anything, it's taught me to show up for my life, even when it's hard. Because when it's hard, it means when I show up in that moment, I apologize. That is my kitten who has found something in this room to
It's
roll around.
okay.
Oh,
I have 4 cats, so
it's a rock. If you can actually
a
believe
rug.
it's a rock. Anyway,
They always do that. This is the perfect timing.
I was
I'm in the
waiting for
studio now, so I don't have my I have 3 little dogs and 4 cats at the house. So
I was waiting for her to come flying past my face, which she hasn't done. Anyway, where was I? So these are the greatest moments in our life, right, Alida? And I think there is no normal, perfect person. I've not met them. Every single human being wrestles, but what we do is we shame the people that wrestle openly with their challenges, and we hide our own. And this is where judgment, I've become somebody who believes that we've got to embrace love and compassion. And love and compassion doesn't start with what we give others, it starts inside.
so important.
So important.
So
I mean,
important. It just gives me
on the phone.
goosebumps. It's so important. I've been talking about this for the last couple of, like the last month or two, and recently joined a group of women, a sisterhood. So we're unconditional love for each other, and we can support each other, and as what you're talking about. And one of the things that we talk about is unconditional love. You have to learn how to embrace that love for yourself and in turn for other people.
Thank you. Thank you.
To make us a better so that's all I want is like people like you to make a better world out there. So we keep sharing this truth to people and sharing love to other people, and hopefully people embrace it and we start getting better in this world, because it's mayhem right now everywhere.
It is mayhem. And you know what? I just love that you've said that, because I'm really blessed to be able to work. My journey hasn't started just working with people people that I meet. It started in corporate. So I come from a corporate background, and I was just hurting and devastated by all the pain that I saw there, and how we pushed people through fear versus love. And, and then we worry why our people have burnout, mental health challenges, bullying, striving to be the best, stepping all over each other. We give an award to the best person. What is that? Like, what is the best? What do you mean? It might mean that popular. Really? So that means I'm the best. Why don't I reward the person in my team who's doing the most to work on who they are? Because they are making the biggest impact with us. Why don't I reward the whole team for sharing love for each other in a time where we could have judged each other because of a problem showing up? I'm just really challenging the norms we have. And then, Alida, I'm really blessed because I run a small niche global practice, which we're setting up people with my message all over the world. Is that not exciting? That is just blows my mind. The US is on our cards for next year, where we're hoping to appoint one person per state to run our work.
Oh, that's awesome.
Isn't that awesome? Because we want, how many states do you have? 52?
Yeah. 51.
So 50. Oh, I keep adding on.
51. I'm thinking about it.
It.
Well, Puerto Rico is still not a state, so we're hoping one of these days. So
okay, well,
anyway,
I just add, I always get that wrong because I'm not an American, right? Yeah, one person per state. Why? Because we want people to start working within organizations, because organizations can pay for this work. And the gift to organizations is they get better outcomes because their people are better together, and their people are better together because their people are better in who they are. And what we've suddenly done is we've taught them that love is not something to avoid, love is something to walk through.
We need that in corporate America. I worked corporate America all my life.
Thank
and
you.
the last job that I had. I was an IT project manager, so a little stressful. Very stressful job
You stepped in the beehive, right? Well, I talk about the hive, maybe the wasp hive.
because it's project management and then IT. So it's really intense. And I actually had a stroke when I was working at my last job. Well, not at the job, but while I was in that job. So that's why I started this podcast. I had a stroke 6 years ago and realized that, wow, I'm really miserable. Like I didn't like my job and I didn't like who I was. And now I had an opportunity, because I took it as an opportunity, that God woke me up in the middle of the night to tell me, wake up because you're having a stroke. Literally, I had a dream that, and in my dream, the doctor comes in and says, Miss Hernandez, you just had a stroke. And I woke up. So I'm like, God has saved me many times, and I'm on a mission now since he saved my life again from the stroke. And that's when I realized I don't like my job. I have to get out of corporate America. I can't do it anymore. And thank God I've manifested everything behind me in this beautiful studio that I have now in Fort Lauderdale. And I'm all set up with the band. We're having a big salsa orchestra here on Saturday with 5 different artists. So we got all the stage set up here and all the microphones and everything. So
I've got to come visit you in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, I want to go down to I want to go to Australia.
In Australia, yeah.
That's on my bucket list. I actually a few years ago, when I was going through the bout again with the drugs and just really miserable, I was so lost. I didn't know what I was, who I was, what I wanted. And there was a program to move to Australia, and I almost moved to Australia. They had a program that you would go there because they were looking for IT professionals, right? For professionals to come, and you would say their year, you get your Australian passport and all this other stuff. And I'm like, what the heck? My kids are big. I'll just go. I almost went. I even talked to them on the phone. That's how crazy I was.
Alina, it would have been great. But then, you wouldn't have been home for COVID,
I know. Oh, and I heard it was bad down there. So
they just basically locked us in, which
for a long time.
For a long time. It brought family home, but the people that were separated from others, it brought home that feeling of being lost and alone. And I'm going to use this as a segue for us, right? That's what you and I both experienced in corporate, didn't we?
Yeah.
We were isolated, we were lost and alone.
Yes.
My life story, when things go wrong and people shame us, we're isolated, we're lost and alone.
Yes.
So being lost and alone is part of the biggest reason I do this work. But when I wrote my book, I have to tell you, I had done quite a bit of work on myself, because I always thought it was about what I knew. So I was like, I'm studying all these people because I come from a international research consulting background. So I was like, I'm going to learn, I'm going to weave the content. That's one of my gifts. I can do that. I didn't expect to be part of the content. Do you know? You know what I mean? Like, really? And my little boy, who's now not little, he looks like a 26-year-old man, and he's only 18 because he's got these, Spanish genetics probably of mine. So he's got a massive beard and everything. By the way, I choose the Spanish. That's not really, I'm African. And he was struggling to go to school, Alida, because he'd been bullied at school because of how and we live on the North Shore in Sydney, Australia, and there's a lot of like blonde hair, blue-eyed people. And Josh was like, we don't fit in. I was like, dude, I haven't ever fitted in. So, just got to find this like apartheid South Africa where they wouldn't give me toilet keys because wasn't sure if I was white or not. So I said, honey, he said, so what are we? I said, well, we're everything. We've got DNA from everywhere in the world because I've done my ancestry test. I said, so I can't tell you that I'm white, that I'm black, that I'm Asian, because we've got everything. I said, so baby, when they ask you who you are, you just go, I'm Josh. Like,
exactly.
But they bullied him and treated him really badly. And so he ended up numbing through gaming. That's an addiction too. That's an addiction we need to address.
Yes.
And he disappeared for 2 years into his room. Wouldn't go to school, John and I would try and drag him to school, my husband. It was really traumatic for us. I know that there's many, many, many parents out there.
Yes.
Our marriage started crumbling. I was doing more work to just get away from the crazy circus. John was here trying to manage it all. And he sat me down when the business seemed to be going really well. Isn't that just one of the best times to needing to run into a wall? Say this, you think you are someone, but you forget you actually are someone. You think you're achieving something and it's feeding another addiction, and you forget that you actually are someone. And that it's not about who you become, because you already are. So why are you stretching for I'll explain that, because my thinking is quite intent in that space. And he sat me down after a really busy week. I was doing filming for some social media stuff I wanted to do. And he said to me, I can't do this. I need you. I can't do this on my own. And I don't want to do this on my own. And you've got to make some changes. So Alida, I started crying because I wanted the best of both worlds versus the best of my world. So I wanted to please these different things in me. The one was this client group and the work that I'd been building, and the other one was loving my family. And the only person who was missing in that equation?
Yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't know that. So I started making changes in the practice. As I started doing that, my son, the school couldn't take it anymore and sent us for family counseling.
Wow.
With the government, which is like, because you can get into real big trouble if your children don't go to school. Australia is wonderful and weird, all rolled in one. We got legal letters from the school because our kid wasn't going to school. And, for two law-abiding citizens to get a legal letter, you're like, oh my God, and I can do nothing about it because he's a big boy. How do I drag him in, stuff him in the car? Because you can't do that, right?
Right.
And so we went for family counseling. And I remember I arrived the first day, and I arrived with these big suitcases because I was going to go away for 3 days, and I was running workshops and doing all sorts of stuff. And I could see the counselor watch me come in. And I calibrate judgment like a fragrance in the air. She's looking at me thinking that I'm not a good mother. Okay, but whose story was that, Alida?
Yourself.
Thank you.
I did the same thing
Get
for
it?
a long time. And I used to, not so long ago, I would cry because I feel guilty because I grew up Catholic. So I went to Catholic school that you talked about. So I went to very strict Catholic school all my life, and then I went crazy when I got out of school, basically. And the guilt, it's the guilt that they put that in you. You know what I mean? As you grow up, instead of talking about a loving God that's not judgmental. So why are we judgmental? Why are they teaching us to be so, oh, you have to feel guilty because that's sin and you can't do that, and you're like, it's
Shame you.
so
Let's
much
shame you.
pressure.
Let's shame you.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. So then you don't know where to go.
No, because you can't go to the community that have raised you because you're not good enough.
Right.
Punish you. And they do punish you. And they shame you. And the pain gets deeper. And so, yes, self-guilt. I just love that you spoke about that, by the way, because God is love. I grew up with, you don't get saved, you go to hell, you die, you burn. And, my dad, I love him. When I got divorced, moved back home, I went out the one night to a nightclub, which was unusual for me because growing up in a minister's home, it's like you feel guilty going anywhere, right? And I didn't really enjoy it. I should rather have gone to the opera or something, but they didn't have that. I lived in a country town, and that was what was happening, right? As a single woman now, and needing to seek company. Anyway, I got home at about 12:30, which is early, right?
Right.
Yari's in the dark at the dining room table. So I walked in through the garage. Yari's sitting looking at me. praying, because my dad was such a godly man, but godly in the sense that he loved God with all his heart. I wish he could have understood this work more, because he would have found wholesome love in him, for him. He had love for God, but he didn't have love for him.
Mm-hmm.
As I walked through the door, he said to me, Tina, would God go where you went tonight? I should have said, God is in me, so it doesn't matter. Like, God loves me, Daddy. But I felt so ashamed and so guilty and so lost again.
Hmm.
And I know his intent was to keep me safe. So I just want to caution that. He just wanted me to be safe. He wanted me to be godly. He wanted me to be a good woman. His fears and judgment of me was overflowing instead of his love for me, which it was love, but it was love based on condition.
Mm.
You know that? You know what I mean? The same as what
Yes.
you've
Yes. Well, because he was raised that way. That's all he knows.
didn't know anything else.
He didn't know anything else. You're taught by your family, right? And the generations keep going, and you have to break the cycle, right? You have to break the cycle. So I'm 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 praying that I have broken that cycle now with my children. I have two sons. One will be 27 on Sunday, and the other one will be 23 in July. And they're beautiful, very, very respectful young men working. I'm very proud of both of them. So I see them and I go, oh, I didn't do such a bad job.
Up, mama.
But you for a while I had that guilt inside for things that I had done to myself. Understand, when I had to go through my bad times, and I chose to choose drugs, to numb myself, and always kept my children safe. And that's why I brought my sons to my ex, to their father's house, to make sure that they were fine. So I made sure they were always protected and they didn't see me that way, because I didn't want to ruin the image of their mother, you know? And it was difficult. They didn't understand what was going on. How come mommy's not around? What's wrong with mom? Things like that. And even I talk about it now, I can feel like I want to cry, because I feel still, even though I've let it go, there's still a little bit there. You know what I mean? Takes a process to kind of release it. But at least now I'm not as emotional as I was, because I've learned to forgive myself, and I did the best that I could, and my boys are great. So I have blessings there.
I have the same thing. I work so hard, and I look at my children, and my daughter's 27. I'm a granny of 2. That's so great.
Wow. So
young. Young, I know. How do you do it? It's makeup in this time of the morning. But to your point, I went through hell with this little girl tied to me. Living, not being able to buy her even Christmas presents one year. So wrapping her school clothes, because I had to make a choice. You're going to school in January, because in South Africa, it's January to December. Do I buy you school clothes and shoes and stuff to write at school, or do I buy you a present?
Wow.
I don't have a present, so I'm going to prioritize your education.
Yeah.
And in doing that, I felt so terrible as a mother. But can I share with you the gift? This little girl unwrapped her school shoes and was like, "This is the best Christmas present ever." And I'm like, "Oh my God."
Aww.
And she put them on. She pranced around in them. She wouldn't take them off her feet. So excited. She turned my greatest moment of shame into a moment. And it was hard for me. Truth, I love that you said, it goes away and comes back. I call these boomerang moments. Let's talk about a boomerang, right?
Right.
You've healed and you've let it go. It bloody comes back. And then you're holding it again and you're thinking, but I let you go. So I have to release you again. And maybe the word that comes to mind is surrender.
Mm-hmm.
Alida, it's surrendering to what it is. And you've said this already. I do the best I can with what I have. That's what I had in that moment. I was trying to do the best I could.
Yeah.
And I love myself for that. Thank you.
It's
And
saying that too. It's so important what you said. I love myself. And that's one thing because I have to say this real quick because when I got your email, the first thing that says, I choose me in 2023. And I thought that was awesome. Okay. So that's my message. It's been about people don't understand what self-care is. It's not going to the spa. It's not, buying a new toy or something like that. It's not that. It's really saying, I love me. I forgive myself. What the past is the past. I can't change the past, but I can change the present and I can change the future of my actions. So if I'm prepared now, I get rid of the past and realize I love myself, get the guilt away. You have to get rid of that guilt. And it's a process. It's not overnight. And I tell people, don't think because we talk about it, right, that it's something that, oh, one day I just woke, oh, I'm just perfect. No, I'm not, far from perfect. None of us are. And I still struggle with, on a daily basis for different things. So it's a learning process every day.
You've just absolutely said the things that I talk about, Alida.
Really?
100%. 100%. Because here's the thing. We're taught not to love ourselves because that is vain.
Mm.
I'm doing the vain thing. And I want to share an example. So as I'm going through this healing journey, it's Easter. And I'm still have a love for God, but I'm not caught in a religious web of right or wrong. And I know people are going to go, what is she saying now? Just breathe, people. I'm in this place of acceptance that we're doing the best with what we have. And through that, doesn't mean we don't set boundaries, doesn't mean we don't have honest conversations, doesn't mean we don't do the things to help each other as we stand next to each other, but we're doing it from love, not fear.
Very important. Very important.
Very different approach, isn't it?
Yes.
And I will say this, you cannot try and love somebody if you don't love yourself, because what do you have on the inside? You beat yourself up every single day for how you are not good enough, smart enough, a kind enough mom. You did this bad. You're a bad person. People told you were bad, so you have to be bad. Your life's been awful. So that must mean that you've done some bad stuff in your life. But none of that is in actual fact the deeper truth. You in moments of your life, to get through that moment, we did things that we thought would help us. And that's all we knew, that we had in that moment. But it's brought us to this moment. And now we have choice to do things differently. And maybe we can start by being kinder to ourselves as we look at our story. And in order to rewrite the story we want in the future, or to actually be in control of writing the story, we've got to rewrite the story of who we were.
Mm-hmm.
So that we can actually just see who we are. I am not my story. I am more than that. I've made decisions in my life that have created a story. And I can look at those decisions from love or fear. And fear is the fear of judgment, and shame is the feeling that I'm not good enough, that I'm a bad, bad person. You know, if you see a child, and I'll use my grandson because my goodness, last night he was doing mad things. His little brother's only 12, so he's like a lunatic at the moment. He's only 2.5. And part of me wanted to go into old school judging mode. You're a bad boy, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, and I lay next to him and I looked into his big brown eyes and I said, baby, I know you're wrestling and I love you. You should slapping granny. Actually, it's glammy because we're slapping. It's not okay. So I need you to be the best of who you can this moment and lie here with me.
What did he do?
He ran up and slammed the door and I had to grab him again.
He's so little.
He's so little, like, but I want him to know that I love him and that I actually understand. He's responding to his world. He can't even explain it. If we look at adults, isn't the same true?
Yeah.
And
Everybody
if
just wants to be loved. Everybody
and
just wants to be loved. I see it every day. I'm in an area that unfortunately there's homeless people around, and they come around, and unfortunately it's so hard. I'm a person that my husband tells me stop picking up strays, you know. I'm like, I'll pick
Mhm.
up people, I'll pick up animals. He's stop, you can't bring them home. Okay. I can't fix everybody.
No,
Yeah, so I've learned that, there's everybody has a choice.
thank you.
And just showing somebody out, I say hi to people, I smile at them. If I have a couple of juices, I go give it to them, and just a little bit of kindness. Nothing,
To show,
um, but just
yeah,
something to make them feel a little better for at least that moment. I mean, everybody wants to feel that way, and they're so alone. There's so many people out on the street that have mental issues, and there's a recovery place next to me, and I get very upset about the recovery places because I've been to one when I was, very young, and didn't like the way the recovery places are. They're just, like you said, it's almost like they're still harboring on the guilt,
yeah.
that the 12-step program. No, it's not changing the person. That person has to learn, like you said, forgiveness and how to love themselves. Once that love kicks in and you go, I love myself, I can hug myself, I can kiss myself, whatever, then everything else seems to go.
You're right. We seem to have only learned how to use shame as the tool to make people avoid things,
Exactly.
but they don't really avoid it in their heart, do they?
No, it never goes away, does it?
No.
Because the addiction started from something that was painful, right? That was already a shame. Could be abuse, it could be whatever it is, right? So many different things that occur. And especially as a child, you're that stamp as a child, it's like a tattoo in your brain.
Mm,
It's not even a stamp that washes off. It's like a tattoo. It stays on there. And until you can reprogram your subconscious, right? You cannot get rid of it.
yes, yes, and yes. And what the other challenge is? You've got to calm your brain to get to the place to walk through fear. You've got to calm your brain. And that might be through doing mindfulness stuff. Sometimes we need medication to calm our brain. Like, I think, if the brain's on fire, but we can't use the medication to numb the brain.
Exactly.
Okay, so those are very two different things. Okay.
Yeah.
You have to be able to relook at your story. And I love that you've just said that it starts with you when you're younger. So I'll share a bit of my story. Is that okay, Alida?
Yes, definitely.
I couldn't understand why I kept getting into abusive relationships
Mm,
with. I couldn't understand why I got to a point where I got so fed up that I'd walk out on them, which led me to have. I'm in my fourth marriage, and what did my husband say when he met me? He'd never been married. Because I wanted to get married in a red dress. He said, I've never been married. That is not my problem. That, like, you got to do it right. Like, I'm not getting married to a woman in a red dress. I was like, and he's British. Like, that would have gone down like a stone, right? And I needed to understand what is the behavioral pattern. Because someone said to me one day, and they were mean, they said it out of judgment, you are the common denominator of your own story. I was like, ah, so you're saying I'm the problem? Well, I'm not the problem, I'm the answer. Do you see how I've changed that? I am the answer to my life. I am the answer.
Answer, not the
Nobody else can
problem.
fix me.
That's right.
I'm not the problem, I'm the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got to change the way we talk. because we talk in a negative, shaming, abusive way.
Yes, we
hurt
do.
ourselves more, and we need to stop that. Stop it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I sat down as I was going through this healing journey, and I came across a program which we now run in Australia called Positive Intelligence with Shazad Shamim. And I'd done so much work. I'd seen a trauma therapist after my son's. Oh, I didn't finish my son's story. So sorry for the listeners out there, because Alida and I are having so much. I had a moment of explosion, which actually connects with the story in that meeting, because she said to me, "Do you think you could work less?" And I said, "She said, what? You said I need to work less. Let me tell you something. That man sitting over there could leave me at any moment. That man has no need to love me. So how can I rely on him to take care of me and my biological children, even though he has helped me raise them? They are not his, they are my responsibility. So I will work," and just all this rubbish came out. I'm giving you the censored version, right? And she phoned me afterwards, very brave young woman, and said, "I need to tell you that you've got PTSD and your son's healing will be challenged if you don't heal." I said, "So can you help me?" She said, "No, lady, I'm not touching you the barge pole. I work with kids. You need to go and find you need to go and find a trauma specialist that works in adult trauma. I'm not going to be able to help you. That's not my thing." I was like, okay. Then I got really angry, shame. And then I surrendered my son. See, once again, I put someone else above my own needs, but I'm so glad I did, because it helped me step into loving me. And actually all the stuff I'd learned cognitively, like in my studies and my, like Brene Brown and blah, 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 all these wonderful people, I knew it, but I didn't know it. I knew it in my head, but I didn't know how to make it mine. And I had to make it mine by surrendering.
Yes.
Counselor, anyway, so that was the start of this healing journey. And by the way, when I saw this counselor, I was not happy walking through my story. It was so that I went through a massive moment of, and I'll really be honest with your listeners out there, the shame is so big, I don't think I can walk through it, which means maybe I should just not be here. And I know I'm not the only person who's gone through that.
No.
Thank goodness for compassionate people, because my coach held me and I cried. And great compassion. And my daughter held me and I cried. She works with me, by the way, Alida. It's the beautiful.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And I had to I found this positive intelligence program after doing all this work. And I was like, there's more work to do, but why? I'm so tired. And one of the big things was doing exercises to calm my brain, so mental exercises to get really into this moment, because I find that people that are chasing and running away from their life are not present. You know what I mean? Like, presence is a waste of time when I'm trying to protect myself from tomorrow. No, presence is the biggest gift to give yourself, because in actual fact, in that moment when you're so peaceful, all of you, who you are, shines into the world. You've got such wisdom because it comes from a place of deep love and compassion. And maybe you're connected to God in a new way. Actually, you are. You're connected to the deepest paths of wisdom. And as I did this work, I needed to write my story, and I was like, whoo! But at each part of the story, I chose to seed it with love. So instead of looking at my story for what it isn't and shaming myself because it should have been the white picket fence and the perfect life, you know, like the stuff they teach us in the religious space we come from.
In the fairy tales, what about on the shows? That's a whole nother thing. The TV, the print, you're looking for your prince. I remember that as a little girl. I don't know if that affected you, but it affected me, because I thought that I was going to find my knight in shining armor, that he was going to come in and just sweep me up and take me away, and it was going to be a beautiful life, like Cinderella, like it's going to be just fantastic. And then guess what? It wasn't that way.
And it wasn't that way.
Yeah.
I have to say something because we probably have quite a few women that listen to this. My son, he teaches me so much. We were driving to school just before his final year, and by this time he'd integrated back into school. He's at university at the moment. I'm so proud of him.
That's so good.
He said to me, Mom, why as a man is my responsibility to be everything for that woman? Why? Just because I was born a man? I said, Mom, I don't think that's fair. It's responsibility to be someone's person. I said, dude, you're probably speaking to the wrong person because I don't know. You got to find a girl that doesn't expect you to be that, right? Easier said than done, because to your point, it's the norms we're creating our children. But as I wrote my story, I needed to find what I call my shame roots, Alida. What are the things that are tangled in my being from a belief perspective that I've told myself in my life that are holding all the best parts of me captive? I hope that's a nice way to describe it.
Yeah, it is.
Because I was at this stage, I was filled with courage. I was like, shame roots, I got to find you because I want to understand you and I want to retell the story so you're no longer shame. And I will keep retelling that story until I go and be with my maker. If the boomerang returns, I will remind myself of the truth. And my shame root started when I was a little girl. Of course, all the other norms stuff, but I was at the age of 5, we were on holiday. And a family member molested me in the evening. And I then decided to go and tell my dad. I woke them up. I remember that. And it was a very weird conversation for your 5-year-old to tell you, because your dad probably thinks you, what nonsense are you talking? Because how do you explain? And they hushed me, Alida. They hushed me. Because had it come out, my dad's ministry would have been ruined. And if his ministry was ruined, then his calling was missing. And if his calling was missing, he no longer had purpose. So hell no, this isn't happening. I'll tell you the challenge of that. Firstly, being sexually awakened at a young age like that creates many, many challenges.
Yes.
Many. Second thing is, if you don't feel like your voice matters, why would you ever use it, set boundaries, and do the right things? You wouldn't, because you're hushed. So I'm sharing 2 truths, right? So now I need to prove to others that I'm worthy of love. Because what you've just told me in that moment is that I don't matter. So now I recognize for the first time in my life, love is conditional. Because let me tell you the next story. I ended up playing doctor with the neighbor's kids next door. And we got found out, and my dad gave me the biggest hiding of my life. And in my mind, I was dying. And it wasn't probably that bad, but I wanted to hide. I wanted to run. It was trauma. I wanted to flee. And then I realized that if I could show the world I'm a good girl, not a bad girl, that I would never have to experience that tremendous shaming and fear and feeling of angst again. I would never have to feel like I was dying again. That's what's going through my mind.
Right.
My dad just never wanted to have that happen again, and never wanted the community, because he's a minister, to ever talk about that again. And he wanted me to be a good girl.
Like if it was your fault. It was never your fault to begin with.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But his shame of who I was showing up as was not okay for him.
He didn't know how to deal with it. He didn't know.
Thank you.
He didn't know.
No. So I had to say, Daddy, you've done the best you could with what you have. And by the way, man, I loved that man until he passed on to be with God. In actual fact, in my adult years, he became my guide. But he was a young man. And it was a judgmental community. We were already the crazy people. Pentecostals were already the crazy people, and there was more the traditional kind of Dutch Reformed Church and Catholic, and so we were the crazy people. So, you know, like,
Right.
you just make sure that no one thinks you're even more crazy and you've got other shit happening. And so that became this thing of me trading my good enough measure. And then what I did was I developed codependency. So that somebody could complete me because I could not be complete without them. Now, that is a myth and a complete untruth, because I can be complete without them.
Right, right. But we thought we needed that. Like, we needed a partner.
Totally.
To be a person, to be whole. So you always had to be companion. And then you didn't care if it was a good or bad companion. That's the only thing too.
I just wanted them to love me.
Right, exactly. Even then, it was the wrong person. And what you said before too about those patterns, I discovered that a while ago about the pattern, and I see many women discuss this all the time. How come I always meet the same type of guy? How come they're always like this? Well, you're attracting that. You don't realize that you are manifesting that already there. You are attracting that because that's what you've been like schooled, right? You're already like used to a certain pattern, and because you have no self-worth and no love for yourself, you continue with this constant relationships that are loveless, first of all, loveless and very superficial, and not worth it, not worth your time or your energy.
Thank you. Yes, yes, and yes. Because there's parts of you that in that moment when you meet that person comes to life. So you see the good, they see the good. I always say the good shines through the cracks in our armor. Okay. But then the problem is I'm in the relationship and my armor is in the way, and all the stuff I've told myself is showing up in that relationship. And even if they are doing the best they can with what they have, let's be real, because that's what they're doing too.
Right.
They don't know how to love you because they don't know how to love themselves. Alida, I run this program with people and I say, right, so in this module, we're going to write a love letter to ourselves. Oh my goodness. Do you know that people find it close to impossible?
I can believe that. Yes.
Because what do I say to myself?
Mm-hmm.
You tell yourself you love you. You tell yourself that your journey is a good one. You tell yourself how proud you are that in the moments when it was so tough, you chose the thing to keep you alive, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And there's no shame. And you tell yourself that your voice matters. You tell yourself that little child in you that got stuck, that sometimes just is like my grandson last night, running from room to room like a savage, right? That's literally what we do as adults sometimes. Because all we want is to be seen. And I want to come back to something you said earlier about the people that are homeless and that, you know, around your space. A lot of us are wandering around in our life completely lost. And, you know, all we want is to be seen. Because when you see me for who I am, not who I'm not, maybe I can start loving me for who I am, not for who I am not. And sometimes we're called to be alchemists. That's what I call us, alchemy angels, healing. We don't need to fix people, but through our story and our deep compassion, we can give people the tools to heal themselves. And that is godly.
It's giving them somebody else hope, giving them hope that
Thank
you can heal, and that you are whole, and that you are a creation from God, and that you are special just the way you are. You're a special energy, special spirit. And we just, again, like you said, just to be seen, just to acknowledge. That's why we say kindness is so important, and love. And just, I say good morning to people. Sometimes they don't answer you. It's okay. I mean, they just needed to say, hear a good morning, or smile at somebody, just say hello. I smile at people because people are very, everybody's in their own world. I don't know how it is down there, but I guess in every part of the world. Here in Florida, we say that drivers here, it's unbelievable. And I think it's everywhere. There's a lot of fear. I think people are running on fear on a daily basis. So you can see the aggression when you're driving. There's an aggression when you're driving. They're like driving on you, like trying to go through you, like going faster or cutting you off, like all these different things. And I've learned now that I drive and I just have to let it go. I have to just kind of funnel, just keep on going, let them do what they got to do. As long as they don't hit me, I'm okay. But, you know, but I think it's because people are traveling in fear. They don't know what to do. They're scared. They're scared of going to work. They're scared of their family. They're just constantly afraid of what's next.
you. You know, you are calling out what's happening. We're living in a state of protection, fear. When there is protection, there's never connection. When there is connection, there's love, there's healing, there's harmony, there's being better together. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. This is awesome. I knew it was a reason why we had to connect.
Yeehaw!
What time is it over there?
It is 6:25 in the morning.
Oh,
My cats wake me up at 4:30 a.m. And then my husband and I generally have a cup of tea, feed the babies, you know, have a shower, spend some time being peaceful. Because we don't do that in the mornings, do we? We wake up, slap the alarm, get in the shower. Why don't we get up a little bit early, get into the groove with ourselves, spend some time talking to each other? And then we go to work. My husband's just left. He's in his little suit. Off he goes. And my daughter's moved in for the week with her new baby because she needs mommy time. So I'm going to take my grandson to school. But to your point, connection. And I'm so grateful I spoke to you, because a leader, my goodness, your life's a gift. You've been called to this. This is just so beautiful.
Thank you. I'm learning that. I'm learned that is my calling. I've been searching for all my life. So God, why am I here? Why did you save my life so many times? I was born premature. I was born 3 months early, and was the only baby that survived. That was a preemie that during that time. I'm 58 years old right now. And
Good.
So I survived being born early with, being in the hospital for 3 months after I was born. So I was so little, 3.5 pounds, and was sickly when I was young. And, going through life, my parents divorced, and going through similar things that you said. I had a family member, touch me inappropriately when I was young, a young girl, like 11, 12 years old. That really set me to a bad place. Again, the shame your family puts you through, like it's your fault. Like, seriously, I'm 11 years old. Like, I don't even know what's going on. And like, you're not supposed to talk about it. I mean, come on.
Thank you. And we need to talk about it. And we need to teach our children from a young age that we don't do that to each other, because it doesn't help us be better.
Exactly.
And what happened to him is that happened to him. There is a cycle. There's a cycle. It's a generational trauma curse.
Yes.
And it just moves from one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, for sure.
Yes, until you break it. Until you have to break that tie. And that's what I always pray, God, that curse, whatever, it's gone. It will not affect my grandchildren if I ever have grandchildren, but
Welcome it in. Welcome it in.
I'm waking in. One of them was going to give me a grandchild.
But it's truth. And we've got to be able to change the narrative, the talking, the messaging in our own hearts. And let me tell you, like, I'm just about 50. I'll be 50 next year. Ta-da! Very excited.
It's a new 30. Don't worry about it.
So I feel so good. I was saying to my husband, with all the healing work and the work I do now, and if I think about how much pain I was in when he met me, I was like, how did you even love me then? Like, I was prickly. I was so depressed. I was so unhappy. And you love me anyway, because you saw the light shine of who I am through the cracks of my armor. And that's why we do end up falling in love with people. That's when our momentary compassion kicks in before we get overwhelmed by the shame messages we've taught ourselves, and then we back out of that kindness we've shown someone. Because it's so uncomfortable. And so when I say choose you in 2023, it's the greatest gift you give yourself, but you've got to start by understanding who you are, understanding your story, having that group that you've spoken about, Alida, where you come together and share, but knowing that there's a vault that when you guys share, you share it there. And or maybe the stuff you've not yet made peace with, that's really hard for you, share it only with somebody who you know won't tell you what to do with it, but will just sit in it with you so that you can walk.
Exactly. And that's what that group that I'm in with now is exactly that. And it makes such a difference to I don't know, as a woman, I was raised as an only child. My father had two other children, so I do have two half sisters, but I was raised as an only child, and being alone also was an issue because I would make, who would I have to talk to? I had no sibling to talk to, couldn't really talk to my mother, couldn't talk to, you can family. Being raised in a Latin family, everybody's we kind of taught children are seen and but not heard, and that kind of thing, and you're always respectful. We've raised with a lot of respect for the family and elders, but they also did what I say was bad is covering up family secrets, like, listen, if we don't talk about it, nobody knows.
Never happened.
Exactly. It never happened. I didn't see, I wasn't there, that kind of thing. But it did happen, and things do happen. And we've had, family members die because of alcohol abuse, because of different things like that. And till this day, people don't even want to talk about it. Come on, you need to talk about this because it affects everybody in the family. And let's see what's going on. Why do I have two uncles that both died because of alcoholism? Why do I have this? Why did I was into alcohol and drugs? I mean, there's all these different things, But so this is the year. Everybody, it's the year. It's for you. Choose yourself. Choose me. 2023. We have to make ourselves better. And like people here, like Christina and so many people out there all around the world, right? That's the magic of the internet now, that we can connect like this. And it's so awesome. I'm so happy I connect with you. You're awesome.
You are awesome. Thank you. And I would love to send you 2 copies of my book, one for
that'd be
you,
awesome.
and then one for you to give away to whoever you feel, you'd like to give the gift to.
Thank you so much. That's your new book that's called Glass Angel, right?
Glass Angel, A Guide to Freedom and Transformation. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I've been doing. Transformation. Continually. I had a sound healing and meditation here on Sunday. So I've learned now to, learn how to be still, quiet the mind with meditation and breathing exercises. And it's just been so amazing. I was missing that. What I tell people now is nothing against having faith or the religions out there, but I was missing a piece, and I found it now. having faith in God, but now finding out the power within ourselves, that we're capable and that our mind is everything. And I learned that kind of in a tricky way when I said I had a stroke 6 years ago. And that's why I called this rebooted, because I said I got my brain rebooted, because I'm a techie, right? So I said my brain got rebooted. My brain got rebooted. I got my RAM cleared and I got reset. So I'm taking this opportunity. I got reset. I'm starting a new me now, because so I'm down. I've down 75 pounds. I changed my eating habits, my health, and my mind. I quiet my mind with meditation, and I just want to give back to everybody to understand you can recover from diabetes. I'm on no medication now from being on 2 insulins. I've recovered from that, and your body heals. Your body heals. It's
And
just it's amazing.
you have to take care of your physical body, because you can, how you eat, how you treat yourself. But then you've got to take care of your thinking, because your thinking is the thing that challenges everything. And, I mean, I put that out on Easter a few years ago. I put this message out about healing, and I'm so grateful. I'm grateful. And then somebody in the religious community, church community from years back, sent me this abusive message saying, "You are vain, vain, vain. God is the only healer. Your purpose has to be Him." Da, 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 da. And I sat with that. First, I thought it was a forward. When you look at it and go, "Yeah, is
Right.
that?" I sat with it and I was like, I have two choices in this moment. I can be shamed because that was the intent, or I could be brave and share love and honesty back. And I said, look, thank you for your message. It feels to me like it took a long time for you to write it. I need to let you realize that my business is exactly where it needs to be, because she attacked my business. I said, but also I am grateful for people in the community who did shun me at one stage because of who I am, because it's brought me to this place. But if we're called to connect, and if God calls us to love each other, surely love is more powerful every day than telling people shame stories that could destroy their life. You don't have to be connected with me on Facebook. I said, you can be free. You didn't even have to send me this message. You could be free. But I release you to choose.
Yeah. We have to answer them with love and kindness.
Love and kindness. I mean, the other part of me wanted to go, you said what?
I know. But then you get into that.
Is it me then?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Then you become into that mode. And it's hard because we are so conditioned in every way. Television, radio, advertisements, music. Music is I love music, so I can't live without music. So I'm careful. Like sometimes now I listen to some songs I used to love in the past and I go, hold on, what did they just say? Like all of a sudden I hear the words now and I'm like, oh, I don't like that. Oh, switch that song. So you have to be careful what you listen to. There are good messages out there. It does. And that's what I notice. And I interview a lot of artists too, because I have a digital magazine. So I do a lot of art and music on my other side. So I interviewed this young artist today. He does reggaeton from Puerto Rico. And he mentioned how his music, he wants clean lyrics. Like he wants a message in the music. So that way, it's a positive influence on the youth. And I said, that's wonderful, because some of the music out there, it is so explicit and really doesn't give anything of value. And it's really disrespectful to as a woman, as a woman is very disrespectful. The men are very disrespectful. And I don't think they think it's fun and games, but they don't realize the damage they're doing to themselves and to all our children out there, trying to put this messages is in their head. I mean, we rent our space here for different events, and we had an event on Friday, and it was a young kids. They were supposed to be 21 and older, and then we discovered they were trying to sneak in under like 17, 16 years old, and we shut it down. And let me just tell you, the group of children that I saw in here, I was so sad. It was so sad. The young girls at 16, 17, 18, years old, basically half naked, you know, just very sexual, at an age that they don't even know what it is. They don't even understand the ramification of how important it is that your body is precious and you don't just give it to anybody. And it's just really sad. It's just really sad seeing that, seeing the youth and so I hope that our message and your message and all that just get out to everybody, that other parents listen to it and say, oh, let me tell my child to listen to this, and we just get out there and teach our youth to just love each other and make a better world for everybody else and for the future.
We have to start sharing our stories, but healing. And when I started this, you asked me to introduce myself, and I said I was just a human being.
Yeah, me here, my same thing.
Just, be a human being. Be kind to people.
Yeah.
Say hi. See people. Be generous. You don't have to fix people. You don't have to change their life. That is their job. That is not your job. But you don't have to judge them to make the journey that much harder. In actual fact, one bit of kindness and care can be the thing that changes their life.
Yes, it can be. It can be. I have another friend. I'm sorry. I have another friend. She has a whole movement on gratitude.
Oh,
She has a whole movement on gratitude. I'm going to interview her soon too on the podcast. And she has her t-shirts. I'm going to get some gratitude t-shirts. And so I'm in that mode right now. I'm getting everybody when it comes to kindness and love and gratitude and transformation and healing, spiritually, physically, everything. I just mind, body, soul, and spirit, because it's 4 of them.
absolutely. And you know what? You want a better life? Start with you. It starts with you, and you're worth it.
Yes.
You're worth it. I wake up peacefully now. I can't tell the change. You know what it feels like, a leader. But to wake up feeling heavy, broken, overwhelmed, I wake up and I'm so grateful.
Yes, I am very grateful. And that's one thing you have to be grateful too. Besides taking care of yourself, you must be grateful every day. I'm grateful for my life. I'm grateful that I can see my family, my children. My mother is still here at 85 years old, and she's with me, and she'll be here Saturday dancing salsa all night because she loves it. So I'm very grateful for many things in my life, and grateful that God given me so many opportunities, and finally understanding what my calling is in this life, to help others out there and just to make a better you.
Well, as I said, you are definitely an alchemy angel.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm so grateful that you've interviewed me so we can bring more hope and love to others. I hope that everyone that listened today, besides the fact of my cats throwing themselves up against walls and toys, apologize in advance, but I hope that this was good.
I think it was awesome. And I will put all your information regarding your book. It's on sale on Amazon. Again, it's called The Glass Angel, A Guide to Freedom, Peace, Transformation, and Growth.
Yeah.
And also you have your company in Australia called Ignite Purpose, which we spoke about. And that's what you're doing over there, all the way down under, all around the other side of the world.
And soon to be in the US, which is really exciting.
I'm here. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Do not tempt me, Alita.
Come visit. It's nice and warm and the sunny, and well, it's a little cloudy today, but it's always beautiful here in Florida.
It's this very day we were called for. How good is that?
It is. It's awesome. It's awesome. I never know with my guests, really, the connection, how much connection I will get with a person. And even though could you read something on paper is different. You just read a couple of things about a person, but there's always something that stands out. And I pray that God helps me discern a lot of this information that I get, and I choose wisely on my guests. And so far I've been blessed that way. Thank God.
I've been blessed to be spoken with you today, or speaking with you today. It's just been such a gift, honestly. Thank you. And thank you for the work you're doing. We've got to do this as a community around the world.
And thank you for what you're doing, and keep it doing it in Australia, and soon you'll be out here in the United States, and we'll see what goes from there. We'll keep in touch. Definitely.
I'm excited. You've now given me many new ideas.
You're my new friend.
Thanks a lot. And I will be in touch with you and send you my book. I'll send you a hug. And thank you so much for your grace today with me. It's just been beautiful.
It's been awesome. I can't even explain. I have goosebumps all over the place. It's just been an incredible connection today with you.
Thank you. And I send you love. And love to all of the listeners. Love, love, love.
Love to you too. And have an awesome weekend. And we'll talk to you soon again.
I'll send you an email just to get your address, and your books are on the way.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
I send you love. Take care.
Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye. Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Rebooted the Podcast to learn about each episode's guests and topics. This is your host, Alita Hernandez. See you next Tuesday.